Chapter 14 Smoke on the Water. It happened on the sixth night. The waves were quiet. Camp Tempest was humming under floodlights and flame torches, the work never stopping, not even under moonlight. The warship's hull now had full power across its lower decks. The central tower had been reinforced. Engines gutted and retrofitted. The shape of a machine of vengeance was beginning to take form. Then, spotlights flared on the ridge to the west. The camp sirens started to spin up. Turrets clicked online. Mutants readied their heavy gear. Ghouls vanished into the sand. Crag stood, hammer ready, on the upper bulkhead. Johnny. He already knew. He stood atop the forward deck of the cruiser, watching through glowing eyes as a dark line of armored figures approached in formation. Hundreds. Not Enclave. The armor was different, sleek, matte black with deep crimson trim. Their banners, old but restored, bore the original West Coast Brotherhood seal: no fractures, no splinters, no outcasts. The real deal. Elias came running up the deck, panting. That's not a raiding party. Johnny nodded. No. That's the rest of the Brotherhood. The convoy stopped at the camp's edge. The frontmost paladin stepped forward, helmet off, hair gray and wild with sea air, a scar running from jaw to temple. His voice carried like steel across the sand. We followed the echoes of your war east. Our last trail ended with the Appalachian chapter. We found the ashes. He looked up at Johnny. And then we found the rumors. A city that stood when it should have fallen. A man who didn't die when the bombs dropped. A warship rising from the grave. He looked at the camp, mutants and humans and ghouls all working together. This isn't a militia. This is a cause. Johnny stepped down from the deck, Elias and Crag at his flanks. The soldiers parted for him. He stopped in front of the paladin. The two locked eyes. There was no posturing. No flex. Just mutual understanding. Johnny spoke. This plan. We're building a fleet. We found the Enclave. They built their sanctuary on a pre-war oil rig, miles out in the Atlantic. They struck us once. They'll strike again. But next time. He gestured to the ship behind him. We take the war to them. The paladin raised an eyebrow. You intend to breach a blackside fortress on open sea with a single cruiser and a volunteer army. Johnny stepped forward. We don't intend. We will. And with your help, we'll do it faster. The old paladin smirked just slightly. We have tech. We have power cores. We have half a battalion of scribes itching to get back in a fight worth bleeding for. He turned to his convoy. Brotherhood of Steel Camp Tempest is now under your shield. The soldiers saluted in unison. Ad Victoriam. Johnny turned to Elias, then Milo, then back to the rest of the camp who were now pouring out into the open to watch the newcomers. We just cut our timeline in half. Double the hands. Twice the fury. He looked to the horizon. Let the Enclave hear it on the wind. We're coming. Johnny stood at the edge of the forward deck that night, the warship humming with new life behind him, generators pulsing, welders screaming sparks into steel, Brotherhood engineers tearing into power nodes with the precision of surgeons and the fury of survivors. The stars over the Atlantic were quiet. And standing beside him, sipping from a dented tin can of synth coffee, was Paladin Marcus Dow, the grizzled lead of the West Coast Brotherhood convoy. Hair like a rusted bristle brush, eyes that had seen both glory and failure from the same chain of command. Johnny asked the question straight. So, what's the West Coast like these days? Dow didn't speak at first. He stared out at the ocean. The pause stretched long. Then he exhaled. Short version. It's a war zone in slow motion. The NCR New California Republic, they spread too fast, too thin. Tried to bring back democracy, taxes, bureaucracy, order. Took Vegas, built roads, posted laws. Built cities on top of bones and wondered why they screamed. He sipped again. Caesar's legion came up from the east like wildfire and bad religion. Slaves, crucifixions, conquest. Whole towns disappeared overnight. Fought tooth and nail. Left more ash than memory. And the Brotherhood. We used to be kings of the mountain. Then the war with the NCR broke us. They saw us as relic hoarders. Power armor tyrants. Took us to war over it. We lost a lot. He looked down into the deck plating. The glow of Johnny's armor reflected faintly in his eyes. But we're still standing. Hidden in bunkers, scattered in valleys, sometimes posing as mercenaries just to keep our scribes fed. We lost power, but not purpose. He looked over at Johnny now. What you've built here. This doesn't happen on the West Coast anymore. Too much division. Too many factions pretending they're rebuilding the world but can't even agree on what the hell it was before it broke. Johnny didn't reply for a moment. Then, sounds like the West is drowning in old flags and dying dreams. Dow smirked. That's about right. But there's something different out here. I see it in your people. The mutants and the ghouls not at each other's throats. The humans who aren't hoarding food or shooting kids over bottle caps. A warship rising out of ash, with everyone working on it. The West doesn't have this anymore. But maybe, it could again. If we win this. Johnny looked back out to sea. We will. And when we do, maybe the East teaches the West how to rebuild. Not just with metal, but with memory. Dow nodded once. I'd like to see that. And for a moment, the two men stood in silence. One born from the fires of the old world's final scream. The other, walking proof that not everything the bombs touched turned to ash. Two pieces of history, both finally heading in the same direction. Morning rolled in thick with sea mist and the clang of steel. At the heart of Camp Tempest, on a reinforced command platform overlooking the shoreline, Johnny, Elias, Dow, Crag, and a full logistics crew gathered around a massive metal table bolted into concrete, its surface carved and etched with marker paint, magnet chips, and topographic overlays. What they had in front of them wasn't much, but it was enough to start a war. Elias tapped the sheet with his glove, voice sharp. "This is it. Full inventory confirmed." Dow crossed his arms and glanced to Johnny. "She's not pretty, but if the Enclave breathes they're gonna smell us coming. Available transport operation Coastbreaker. Naval. 1 modified Ticonderoga class warship. Codenamed the Phantom Rose. Primary carrier, command ship. Refitted for modern power cores. Twin railgun retrofit pending. Missile batteries partially functional. Crew capacity, 200 plus. Medical bay, communications uplink, drone hangars functional. 3 retro-class scout boats. Small. Silent. Great for recon or hit and run. Minimal armor. Capable of carrying 10 soldiers or 4 power armored units each. Modified to carry ECM jammers. 2 mobile landing platforms. Originally cargo barges. Now armored with steel scrap and layered plating. These serve as mobile deployment platforms for tanks, troops, and equipment. Air. 4 vertibirds. Salvaged from Enclave and Brotherhood wrecks. 2 have mounted weaponry. 2 are retrofitted strictly for troop transport. Range is limited. Must stay close to carrier. 2 lightweight airships. Non-combat. Observation and supply. Tethered balloon rigs with solar arrays and broadcast capabilities. Used as overwatch and high elevation recon. Ground, amphibious. 8 Brotherhood modified tanks. Converted T-Series hulls, T-48S and pre-war surplus, with pontoons and buoyancy stabilizers. Slow in water, but viable. Auto-loaders intact. Not elegant. Not quiet. But terrifying when they roll ashore. Crag grunted, tapping one of the barges. "We slap 2 tanks on here, send 'em in undercover, and when those Enclave bastards open fire." He mimed, slamming a fist into the table. "They find out they brought lasers to a cannon fight." Milo stepped in from the comms platform with a fresh report. "NAV uplinks on the warship are synced to call sign triangulation. Johnny's device will get us close but not through their defenses. The last few miles, we're flying blind." Johnny nodded. "That's when we land. Quiet recon goes first. Then 2 boats loaded with stealth teams. Once the perimeter's tagged, we drop the hammer. Dow traced a line from the warship toward a point deep in the Atlantic, farther than any pre-war commercial shipping routes. No landmarks. Just a cold dead grid. This oil rig. You're sure it's real? Johnny looked down at the call sign device now fused into his armor, its glow reacting faintly to the discussion. It's more than real. It's their heart. And we're going to stop it? Elias leaned over the map. We have one shot at this. We fail, we die. They find Lancaster. They finish what they started. Johnny nodded. Then we don't fail. We bring the ghosts. We bring the hammer. And we bring every reason they should have killed me when they had the chance. The count was taken. The ships were ready. The sea was waiting. And so was war. The horns blew at dawn. Not a parade. Not a ceremony. A war cry, low and long like steel groaning under the weight of destiny. From Camp Tempest, every light flickered on in sequence. Tents collapsed. Cables unplugged. Generators packed. What had been a city of preparation became a moving war machine in under an hour. The Phantom rose, her hull now freshly armored with radiation-hardened plating, her tower flying the reclaimed flag of Lancaster. A red rose burned into steel fired her ignition cores. A deep rumble echoed across the broken coast. The warship came alive. Ghouls flooded the decks, bolting down final equipment. Brotherhood scribes lined the lower levels, scanning reactor feeds. Mutants hauled fuel cells the size of coffins across wide iron walkways. Elias barked orders from the bridge while Craig's tanks were rolled carefully onto the mobile landing platforms, massive sleds lashed together with polymer-patched pontoons. Above it all, two vertibirds rotated slowly, forming a vanguard in the misted sky, flanking a small surveillance airship pumping out encrypted relay codes to the Allied fleets on land. The remaining scout boats loaded up stealth ops, recon runners, demolitionists, snipers, and tech ghosts. And at the edge of the bridge, facing the sea, stood Johnny Vanjik. The LC-01 armor shimmered under the sunrise. The call sign device pulsed once, hard like it could feel the course he'd chosen. He lifted his arm, slow. And as the wind caught his coat and the ship groaned forward into the surf, he gave the order. Sail. Point us east. To the black water. To the storm. To the place they swore we'd never reach. The Phantom Rose cut into the sea like a knife, followed by her barge-borne escorts and high-altitude scouts. Waves smashed against the hull. Salt air tore across the bridge. The sky grew darker, colder, deeper. And somewhere, far across that endless blue, the Enclave watched, unaware the thing they feared most was already en route. And he was bringing a nation with him. The wind howled sharp at the prow of the Phantom Rose, salt spraying across rusted steel and scorched plating as the ship carved through black water like a vengeance unburied. The war machine moved slow, steady, humming with the breath of reawakened tech and raw purpose. It would be 24 hours before steel met steel. But already the storm had started. At the very front, standing where bow met sea, 5 figures faced the horizon. No guards. No armor detail. Just the heart of the rebellion. Milo, rifle slung, staring into the waves like he could see the future through them. Crag, arms crossed, breathing slow through his nostrils, eyes unblinking. Elias, half in armor, half in contemplation, Daytop dead in his hand. Dao, the old warhound from the west, staring into the deep as if it owed him something. And Johnny, his coat fluttering, his armor glowing faint, the call sign asleep on his wrist for now. Dao took a slow drag from a battered filterless cigarette he'd probably saved for a moment just like this. His voice cracked like leather and iron. Odd day. Super mutants, ghouls, humans. He looked at Johnny. An evolved ghost. A half smirk, not mocking respect. He let the wind whip his jacket and spoke louder now. This new world, it may not be what we want. And boy do I miss the days of blue sky, clear water, and baseball games played in fields that weren't glowing. He dropped the cigarette, ground it under boot. But this right here. He motioned at the deck at the crew, the machine, the alliance of the unlikeliest survivors sailing to death and legacy. This is worth every moment. Crag grunted low, almost a chuckle. Never thought I'd be sharing the field with someone I used to consider food. Milo laughed dryly. You sayin' you wouldn't still chew on me if things go south? Crag shrugged. Only if there's no seasoning left. Elias looked around the group, quieter. The truth is, there's not much old world left to rebuild. But maybe that's the point. Maybe we stop trying to resurrect something that died, and instead build what should have been. Johnny stepped forward, just an inch past them all, eyes locked on the endless water. Humanity won't look the same. But it'll live. It'll breathe. Even if it limps, even if it glows. He clenched his fist. The Enclave never understood that. They want a perfect copy of a dead world. A myth. A lie. Preserved in steel and fire and gene purity walls. He turned slightly, just enough for the others to see the glow in his eyes. We're not here to bring back America. We're here to make damn sure the next world doesn't become the Enclave's dream. The sea roared on. Somewhere ahead, lightning cracked deep within the horizon. And behind them, a ship full of rebels, freaks, geniuses, and warriors all born of broken lands prepared to end a legacy that should have died with the bombs. They stood together at the front of that ship like something older than country, stronger than flags. Like judgment in motion. 24 hours remained. But history. It was already written. The wind didn't answer. It just rolled across the bow like a judgment waiting to be earned. Johnny stood with his arms crossed, armor humming low, the glow of the call sign just barely pulsing at his wrist like it too was listening. "So what's the plan?" Milo had asked. Johnny didn't answer immediately. He looked over the railing, watched the dark water move beneath Phantom Rose, heading ever closer to the heart of the storm. Then he turned slowly to face them again. His voice was calm, cold, focused. "Well, first we got a little point of contention." He stepped toward the center of the group, his boots ringing on steel. Eyes on Elias, then on Dao. "You both brought Brotherhood soldiers to this fight. Real ones. Battle-tested. Disciplined. But, Elias, your chapter changed. You evolved. You took in ghouls. Super mutants. You found loyalty where no one else bothered to look. And Dao." He looked the old paladin dead in the eye, not with disrespect but with that slow burning intensity that made enemies flinch and allies pay attention. "Your chapters from the old school. You're ready to kill the Enclave, no doubt. But let's not pretend we don't all know how some of your men look at Crag." He gestured subtly toward the mutant, who didn't blink, didn't smirk, just stood still like a statue of war. "And I've seen how a few of your troops flinch when Milo passes. When one of Elias's ghouls steps on the same deck. So let me ask this plainly." He took a slow breath, his voice tightening. "Do you both trust your men enough to fight side by side? Because this plan only works if everyone plays their role. There won't be time for infighting. Not a second. Not a bullet. Not a blink." He stepped forward, boots hard now, voice rising, not yelling, but commanding. "Can your people learn to play fair? Can they learn to fight with honor for the present, not with hatred from the past? Because if they can't..." His hand hovered above his wrist, the call sign beginning to stir. "I'll go in alone. And they'll never see me coming." Silence hung for a moment. Tense. Uncomfortable. And then Elias stepped forward. Eyes sharp. Back straight. "I trust my people. They don't just tolerate our mutants and ghouls. They call them brothers." He looked to Crag, gave a small nod. "Crag saved my life in the Southern Breach. I owe him. My chapter owes him. If anyone in my ranks so much as glares the wrong way..." He looked to Johnny. "They're off the roster." Then Dao. The wind pulled at his coat. He didn't blink. "You're right. My chapter's old guard. We were raised on iron doctrine, purity, control, hierarchy. But most of the hardliners died during the NCR push." He looked to the steel deck beneath them. "The ones who followed me east? They're here because they saw the world wasn't black and white anymore." He glanced at Crag, then Milo. "They don't have to like it. They just have to follow orders." He stepped forward, a boot beside Johnny's. And they will. Johnny looked between them both. His eyes glowed faint in the night mist. Then he nodded. Good. Because when we hit that oil rig there is no fallback. No split line. No second wave. It's one force. And we go in like fire wrapped in thunder. The plan would come next. But the foundation was finally set. Not just with metal, but with trust. The war map glowed under the soft pulse of red deck lights etched with not just coordinates, but intent. Every node, every arrow, every drop of ink and steel told the shape of the battle to come. This wasn't a siege. This was a reckoning wrapped in strategy. Johnny stood at the center, armor quiet, his voice calm but cutting like wire. The command crew leaned in. Elias, Dow, Milo, Crag, Brotherhood scribes, mutant war leaders, ghoul tacticians, and squad captains from every allied settlement across the state. And when Johnny spoke, no one questioned him. The cold truth is this. Even with all our skills, even with all our experience, all our courage, the Enclave has too many men. Yeah, one of us can drop 10 of theirs. But they've got 20 for every one we bring. If we play this by the old rules, scout versus scout, heavy versus heavy, we lose. Every time. So, we fight fire with water. The table flickered. Elias tapped a toggle. The hologram projected the oil rig, its outer perimeter ringed with water defenses, turret emplacements, drone towers, and aerial pads. They'll expect our vertibirds to meet theirs in the sky. Dogfights, flanking maneuvers, old school tactics. Johnny shook his head. We don't play into that. We let our sea do the fighting and our air makes it impossible for them to stop it. He pointed to the 2 observation airships, now retrofitted with artillery sling mounts and precision drop ordnance. We put our airships above their water defenses. Rain hell down on their pads, towers, gun nests, shell fire from above, non-stop. They'll never get a clean shot at the boats. The shelling turns the sea into a battlefield they can't control. Every vertibird they try to launch will be caged by sky and surf. Crag leaned forward, tapped the landing platforms on the map. Tanks. Johnny nodded. We deploy the amphibious units with the boats, coming from the west and south flanks. That'll pocket them. Box them in. Crag, your mutants hit first. Sweep the rig's outer corridors. Crush the lightweights. Break the spine before they can reinforce. No prisoners. No mercy. He turned to the ghoul officers. Lean, sharp-eyed, quiet. You're fast. Quiet. Unpredictable. Go for the heavies. They expect brute force to meet their juggernauts. They won't see you coming. Bring them down from inside. Sabotage. Explosives. Neck snaps in the dark. Elias and Dow stood shoulder to shoulder now, leaders of two Brotherhood worlds. Johnny pointed at them both. This is your storm. You're the only ones that can handle vehicle warfare if they've got anything heavy rolling on that deck: tanks, auto turrets, powered crawlers, maybe even mechs. You take them down. You burn their last line of hardware into ash. He looked to the humans, the volunteers, the civilian fighters hardened into warriors over months and years. The rest of you make your way to the mainframe. We take out their servers. Everything they know, everything they've hoarded gone. We make sure their data dies with them. And then, Johnny took a step back. The room fell silent. He looked up at the group. All eyes turned. And his voice dropped just slightly. As for me, he motioned to the map, to the front edge of the oil rig's central chamber. I'll be going in first. I'll take a small craft. Quiet approach. He paused. I'll get eyes on the target and signal when it's time. But it was a lie. Because Johnny wouldn't take a boat. Wouldn't wait for cover fire. Wouldn't ask permission. He'd use the call sign. He'd jump straight into the lion's mouth. Because deep in that rig was something older than fire. The last breath of the pre-war government. The true enclave. Retired CIA ghosts who never left the game. FBI counterinsurgents that rewrote domestic history before it ever hit the press. Judges with nuclear codes in their pocket. Senators who watched the world burn from hidden bunkers. And a president and vice president who hadn't aged in 30 years thanks to cryostasis, compound therapy, and FEV-laced blood treatments. I want answers, Johnny said quietly. I want truth. And I want justice. Then he turned to the war map one final time. Get to your stations. The moment you see the sky crack and their towers burn. That's the signal. The plan was set. The ghosts were marching. And the reckoning was almost here.